But we're going to get started very soon. Everybody's coming on. I'm pretty excited. This is the last day again of it was to be a 6-week segment. I think it was actually 4 weeks. We got in a lot of information. You can find them on my YouTube, actually. Downloaded them and uploaded them again. So I just want you to be good, be okay, read these books. Let's have a conversation about them. I don't speak about them all the time on my Monday podcast. That Monday podcast, Evadyne with Company, Talk Worth Listening to. We have many different topics, many different things that we talk about. So join us. And if you have a topic you want to bring to the show, email me, teamfollowme@yahoo.com, and let me know. Call me, 347-457-2769. Okay, we're about to get ready now. Let's go. Good evening, Mr. Solution. Well, good evening. How are you today? Welcome back. Welcome back. We missed you last week, and I was missed as well. So we're going to move forward with all of this. How are you doing, though? How's everything?
I'm very well. It sounds like you're talking, I guess you are addressing me, correct?
That is correct, Mr. Solution. I'm addressing you, and we may have some people on who are live, who are listening in. So
okay, great. It sounded a little bit kind of different, but nevertheless, yes, we'll work through it. I'm fine. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I am well. I thank you very much. So today is our last segment of this mini series on finance, investing, and building wealth. How do you feel about it? How do you feel it went so far?
Well, I tell you this, I was thinking about it, and that's a phenomenal question, which falls right in line with what I am thinking. And that is, look, the acquisition and maintenance of sufficient monies is the most important thing that a person can do in life. I'm going to just lay it on the table. Look, if you look at a funnel, everything we pour into that funnel, it comes out of a small orifice. And therefore, all of your education and learning and training, all of that is supposed to be, if done properly, parlayed into the acquisition of sufficient lifestyle funds. That's what it's all about. Getting a college education. When I was in college, some people had learned to be professional students. And they would say, I'm afraid to go out there in the big, bad world. I know how to, I'm acclimated to the college environment. I'm able to get my loans or grants or whatever. And I'm comfortable here for the next, whatever amount of time. But look here, the bottom line is this. If one doesn't prioritize money, money won't prioritize you. You'll always be behind the curve. Now, today, I was planning on sharing, some of the people who have made it, like Visa and MasterCard and Capital One. I wanted to share some of that information. But I think that the people here, and I always said I wanted to speak through the adults to their children. Hopefully they would transmit this to their children, because we're in a new age. We're in an age where wages have not kept up with prices. That's why a lot of young people can't afford a home, can't nearly afford a home, and may not ever be able to afford a home, the vast majority. So this thing about finances has to be taken extremely seriously. And it's something that one is going to have to do all the time, not something that one can just do haphazardly or hit and miss. It's going to have to be on a regular basis. And I'll just wrap it up with this. I quote Robert Kiyosaki, and I like what he said, because my thought was, how much time needs to be spent regarding money and its acquisition? Well, number one, money is currency. And it's always flowing. But one of the things that he said is that he's always developing new formulae, that's formula plural, to do it better, to acquire more money at a faster rate, easier, to make it easier. So that's what his model or mind model was, is to develop new formulae. And the only way that can be done is by discussing it with other people who may have a little bit of a different angle, to help you create different angles on acquiring adequate resources. So anyway, that's just the short version of how I feel about it. I think we've done a great job. I just suggested this because I thought it was one of the most important and mature things that mature progressive people could engage in. And I would hope that more people would take it seriously, because if they don't, they're going to suffer commensurately.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I have a question.
Sure.
When you thought about and came up with the idea to do this show, why did you choose me to co-host with you?
Well, you were available and you had expressed a level of acumen, and therefore I said, hey, look, a lot of people can participate in this, and a lot of people who would not participate in it, if they were just called upon or motivated to do it, they could do it. Now, just like with Miss R.A.E. Ray, I would like for her to get into the mix. But look here, the people who run this show, it's not me, but I appreciate them. They're going to have to prioritize this sort of thing. I hear they ask for donations, they ask for money, and that's fine. But it's one thing, money has to have a source. It has to come from somewhere. And the best place people can get money from would be themselves. That is, the skills that they have acquired. So the reason I ask you is because we were talking about it. You were there. You and I had agreed on a couple of things. I forget exactly what it was at this moment. And I think I was talking about indemnify, how one insures themselves. And you concurred on that. I said, oh, well, she understands this. And then due to a little bit more probing, I just had a little bit of dental work. So forgive me if I'm slurring a little bit. But it's going well. It's going super well, but it takes time to heal. So I felt like, well, hey, this lady has some skill. And then I discovered that you have more skill than I initially thought that you have. And therefore, I thought it was a good thing. But there's going to have to be a lot of this. 49% of Americans are living from their credit cards. And so there's a lot of work to be done. But that's my response. I felt that you had the background, and certainly you do, and therefore it's a task that needs to be undertaken.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I must give thanks to Jashon, of course, for accepting the challenge of bringing on a segment that many people need, but not many people want to take on. And so they need the education.
If I just may pose a question back to you, volley a question back to you. Why do you think they need it, but they don't want to take it on, as you just said, or words to that effect?
Because people don't like going out of their comfort zone. And they believe, like, there are some people who believe that the show Good Times was more real life than the Cosby Show. Some people are afraid to be wealthy because without talking about politics too much, the two parties are victimizing psychologies of people. I don't know if I said that correctly. The Democrats want needy so they could have a job. And the Republicans, they want more and they think the Democrats are needy. And this is not a color issue, it's just a party issue. So it's psychologically put into people's minds that wealthy people don't want to pay their fair share. Well, if that's psychologically implanted, then you'll never want to be a wealthy person, whether it is a conscious decision or, again, a subliminally subconscious implant. Wealthy people don't want to pay their fair share. This is what people believe. And it's a party issue, is that political party conversation back and forth, if that makes any sense. Does that make sense? Did I explain that correctly?
Yeah, but my question would be sort of a fundamental question, and it would be, how is a fair share determined, and who determines that?
Well, not only
You
that,
know, because we talk about tax avoidance versus tax evasion. If we Because I think that has some relevance, of course. But I guess the germane question is, or the most relevant question is, who determines what a fair share is?
well, the agenda makers determine that. However, the presentation of it, the way they wrap it up. So personally, I've always been against the luxury tax. I do not feel that because I spend more for an item, I should be charged a higher tax on that item, especially because you didn't pay the workers anymore. So people feel like luxury tax is okay. Now, of course, it's people who are not paying it. It's because of that psychology again. I try to explain it, and I'm not great at fractions, but I've always loved the least common denominator statement, and I use it like all the time. So I try to break it down simply because I believe in the flat tax, actually, that Clinton had spoke about, and I think maybe Reagan before him. I believe in the flat tax on income. If you have to pay any, the flat tax on income. Great budgeting for the government. If you know exactly what the salary roll is going to be in July for the new year, then you can budget your money as well. But okay. So I share with people, if I buy a pair of shoes for $30 and it's a 10% sales tax, my tax is going to be $3. If the next person buys a pair of shoes for $3,000 because they can afford it, then their tax is going to be 310%. That's equal. They are paying their fair share. But the psychology is that the more you make, the more we can take. And what people don't realize, that's across the board. That's across the board. Because if you're making 20,000 a year and paying income taxes on that, and then when you finally get your 14,000 after taxes approximately, and then you pay 30% of that to your rent if you happen to be living in subsidized housing, and you're paying another 20% to your daycare provider, and then when you go to the store, you're paying taxes again on the items you're purchasing, it's like, ooh, where's my portion? But nobody's figuring on that level. They're not figuring on that level. They just, they feed into, and let me go back to the comfort zone. Why is it that people don't want to hear improving your financial situation other than working overtime, because they don't want to step out of the box that they're in, that again, that comfort zone. If you make more money and you decide you want to move from an apartment to a house, how is everybody else around you going to look at you? It's you need to understand, and I always share with people that picture of Adam and Eve in the garden, that's what we were supposed to be living like. Anything short of that, to me, it's hard work. It's hard work. And not hard work, but it's just hard work. That wasn't the intention. People
I see.
sometimes are afraid to do better because of how other people will view them, how they'll view them.
Well, oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, because I wanted to comment
No, you
regarding
may.
that.
I'm good. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I always tell people, if one is going to be financially successful, they are going to have to break away. Sometimes they're going to have to leave their immediate group, their immediate environment where they grew up, and possibly even their state. And there's nothing wrong with the young person even leaving the country. And I'm talking about people who have it in their minds that they really want to get ahead. And some people have this instilled in them from a very early age. There's a little bit of background. But yeah, they have this instilled at a very early age. So this is not completely uncommon. And so what people have to do is just stick to their guns, because, and I think, as you rightfully pointed out, there's a gregariousness in human beings, a natural proclivity to be social, but that doesn't work as well as it should all the time, because if the group that one is being social with is not going anywhere, or maybe even going backwards, it's not a good idea to hang with that group of people. It's much better to hitch one's wagon to an upward moving star so that they will get someplace in life. And I think, finances doesn't solve everything. I would never say that. I'm the first one to say that, because there are so many other things that have to be in place. One has to negotiate. Say, for example, just a quick example, if one wants to put a roof on their dwelling place, well, you got to get the person with the right material, the person that will show up, the person who will do it for the best price at the best quality. So there are a lot of skills that go into that. Now, true enough, having adequate finances to cover it is very important. But there are other things that I would say are almost as important, you see. So I think those things have to be discussed. And see, people discuss a lot of things. I say always throw a little bit of, look at it like water making a good soup. Water mixes well with virtually everything. It's kind of like old blood. Old blood can, I understand it can be used for any type. It's the universal match, as it were. So talking finances, and that's what I wanted to impress upon Jashon and others. And I noticed you are a good person to connect with, because, you understood you had experience with, for example, this other communication area. I forget the name of it right now, but I think Blog Talk, I look at Blog Talk and I see the number of participants, and they're very few. So I think it's going away. And you talked about simulcasting on free, what was it? It was that
the
free communication channel.
freeconferencecall.com.
And it's pretty decent. I listened to at least one program on there. But I just think overall people have to look to be progressive. I think getting one's finances in shape Another statistic is that not only are 49% of Americans living off their credit card, and it's a revolving debt. That means they don't pay it off at the end of the month. And if we have time, I want to share a little bit. I got a couple of advertisements from a few credit card companies, and I just look at it and kind of smile. I'll share some of that. But besides the 49% of people that are living off their revolving credit card balance, you have 2/3 of people, 66% of Americans, well, 66 and 2/3, and they say it's even higher than that are financially insecure. That is, they're living paycheck to paycheck. One missed paycheck, and they can't pay their rent. And it's terrible to get way behind on one's rent. And a lot of people are in jeopardy of being thrown out of their domiciles, kicked out. And I've seen people in Arizona, I know on the East Coast, like in North Carolina, a lot of places. This is on YouTube. They document it. They send the marshals out there or the marshal equivalent and throw a person out. And if you don't have the money to catch up immediately, you're out on the street. They set your belongings out on the curb. And they do this in a number of places. And that's very sad to see people lose their homes, especially when they have children. I mean, that compounds the problem. And it all relates back to finance. Absolutely. So if we can help a few people focus and get their finances in shape to where this will never happen to them, I think it's an overwhelming success. What do you think?
I think you're absolutely correct. And as you mentioned, the unfortunate eviction rates, I just wanted to share with anyone who's listening, because it not only happens to renters, it happens to homeowners with foreclosures. So what I wanted to do today, Mr. Solution, is as it is so far our last segment, I just want to give an overview of some of the things that I've come across and that I want people to walk away with, where they can actually do their own further research, if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely. Proceed.
So I'm going to go backwards since we mentioned the eviction, and I'm going to start with insurance. So there are people who have insurance policies that have cash value, but they're holding on to the policy until they die because they don't realize they have it. Well, that cash value could keep you in your apartment, or that cash value could keep you in your home. Just take a loan out from it. If you're hearing this and you're facing any kind of financial crisis right now, don't worry about when you die. That's going to happen eventually, no matter what. Right now, find the resources that you have within your reach, If you are a renter, it could even be your retirement. I think you would rather retire in your apartment with a lesser overall monthly payment, which you can actually put it back in if you're still working. Take a loan out on your retirement. Stay in your place of, as Mr. Solution say, domicile. Stay in your home. Stay in your apartment. If you own a home and you've been paying your mortgage for a minute, you may have equity in that mortgage. And if you are a senior and you're the only one on that deed, there's no reason a tax lien should uproot you from your home. No reason a tax lien should uproot you. Go into that equity, pull out that equity, pull out more than you need, pay off your taxes. And if you're the only one on the deed as a senior, process a reverse mortgage. Pull out equity. You personally never have to pay that back, nor do you have to pay the mortgage anymore if you still have a mortgage. And it is a ratio of how much equity you have in, but do not become displaced when you have the value right under your hands that you may not even know you have. That you may not. And if you're listening to this and you're not the homeowner, but you know someone who's going through this, have that conversation with them. Call me, 347-457-2769. Do not become displaced if you've been paying into any financial product for a period of time, except for a term policy. So that just goes a little bit in reverse of what I wanted to talk about, which was insurance. Insurance is not about death, it's about building wealth to do the things you want to do and need to do in your life when a time comes, whether it's college tuition for your children, giving them their down payment for a house. They could better use that money for their down payment, and you could visualize and see the value of what that payment over all those years have done for your family. Please. The other thing I wanted to go over, I'll start at the top. This is about finances, investment, and building wealth with insurance. I'm going to go to finances. Your income is very important, and how you use your income is more important. You can go online and download free personal budgets. You may have never created a budget a day in your life. Go online and get a free personal budget and fill in the information so you could see your money. When you can see it better, you can use it better. There's a website, Money Under 30, moneyunder30.com. And it shows where 50% of your income should be used for your needs, 30% for your wants, 20% for your savings. I think I would switch that 20-30, but it all depends on who you are. Use that same device and search for the 30-year-olds who were committed to being able to retire by age 30. And they successfully did it. It's about being focused and knowing what it is that you want to do. Being focused and knowing what it is that you want to do. There are, Mr.Solution has given us, and this is what kind of prompted this whole segment. He was giving out so much information on the Friday night call, this same number, adults only. He was giving out so much information, and people were hearing it, and they saw the value in his information. They saw the value in it. Dave Ramsey, Robert Kiyosaki, they were hearing it, but not capturing it. And that's when I shared, capture the information. It's like rain. It's like rain. Capture those raindrops and make yourself a pool to swim in. Capture them. Everybody's not going to give you everything, but pay attention to what you're receiving and use it. You can search Nerd Wallet if you want to go into investments. There's so many, literally on your device, if you have Cash App, you can buy stock in Cash App, through Cash App. You can buy Bitcoin through Cash App. You can buy through a Stash. That's another app that you can use. And you may not know everything about investing. I personally love stock splits. So I pull down the stock split list periodically to see what's happening. And it can work for you. It's not an immediate growth product, but if you can get, okay, first set your investment budget. Okay, first set your budget. Okay, so if you can get a stock that's going to split and give you more stocks, not more value immediately, but more stocks for your money, you have an opportunity, if those stocks grow, to earn. And just a quick example, I purchased 10 shares. They were splitting 100 to 1. That gave me 1,000 shares on the split. I spent $100 for those initial 10 shares. When they split, they go down in actual value. So I probably still had $100 or $99, but I had 1,000 shares versus 10 shares. And for a year, those shares, each one stayed under a penny. By the 14th month, a little over a year, they went up to $59 a share. Easy numbers. 59 times 1,000 equals 59,000 for a $100 investment on a split. So you could just Google. Oh, I said that right. They don't pay me. You can just search on the internet, stock split calendar, and just look at it. I had no idea what the company did. But in essence, what they do is every time you touch your phone, every time you touch your laptop, and just your touch can make something happen, they created touchscreen. Well, they were one of the companies that was creating the touch screen because we weren't able to touch back then. So you never know what they're going to do. Finances also, and I'm going to stop. Give me 2 seconds. Taxes. It's better to know what's happening with your tax return than to just turn over your documents and wait for the result. So get publication 17 from the IRS. You can download it from the IRS website, or you can just go to it and review it. Publication 17 gives an overall view of the tax preparation process in terms of categories and what qualifies as deductions. The publication 17 is perfect. And if you have something specific that you're doing in your life, then it will lead you to that as well. So you'll be able to click on it as a link if you're using it online, or you can go into an IRS office, Internal Revenue Service, an IRS office, and get the publication 17 book. Checking personal, check out Greenwood Bank. There's something new and something different, and it's stemming from Black Wall Street. That's why they named it Greenwood. They have a lot of different features. It's an online. Some people don't like online accounts, but again, as far as I'm concerned, everything is online. Everything is digital at this point, and definitely going digital. But, I'm not saying you have to. Just check it out. And if you're looking for a business online banking system, check out Novo, Novo. Okay, all right. That is it for me. But do just a second. Thank you very much. Just a minute. Do your research. Use your devices. If you get an idea, well, you don't even have to type it in anymore. The system knows you have the idea. It's reading your head. But type in your idea and then see what comes up. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Solution, it sounds like we have a caller.
Okay. Hey, Dr. James, how you doing, both of you? Yeah, what Evadyne was saying about the stock split, that's very true because he told me about a stock split and I bought it. And I bought 10 shares and it split 10 to 1, so now I got 100 shares. Even though it's been going up, down, up, and down, up, down, but I got 100 shares. So I only paid for 10 shares. So that was good. Now, I got a question for both of y'all. How much money do you have to be considered financially successful? Well, I'll first of all, let me ask you a quick question, sir. How did you get involved in stocks? Was it through your job or some other avenue? If you don't mind sharing that. I'm not a very
I'm not very involved with stocks, but I was involved with stocks years ago. Just from knowing about stocks and watching, different programs and so forth. I wasn't necessarily too much. I've had like job pensions where, when you sometimes you choose like 401k or whatever, you can choose what you want to invest in, what type of investments you want, things like that.
Right.
But with this particular stock, I was talking to people. I'm looking for ways to increase, trying to make more money.
Oh,
and I thought stock might be a safe way to do it because I didn't want to really go into real estate because of the fact that real estate, I'm 63 years old. Real estate requires hands-on. I feel like it requires hands-on work. You got to be involved with your building, your tenants, and so forth and so on. And
right.
You depend on, you got to do research to make sure your tenant's going to pay their rent or try to make sure. And so forth.
Right. Well, stocks have their risk too, and I think, I haven't read my perspective, but I think that they've taken a beating the last couple of weeks, and I think they took a beating today. But anyway, to respond to your question, I think that's a variegated question. And I think the best way to answer that, of course, it's always going to be personal. But first of all, we can speak to that in terms of needs and, of course, wants. And I would say that a person has acquired at least sufficient resources when all of their needs are met, the basic needs. Are you familiar with Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Have you ever heard of that? Okay. Well, anyway, when you get a chance, you just maybe want to look at that. But it just refers to the basic things, food, shelter, clothing, stuff like that. Healthy food, a place to stay. We were just talking about people being evicted, both mortgage from their homes, at least homeowners and renters are being evicted. So obviously they are income insecure because otherwise they could make a deal. I wanted to talk at one juncture about getting discounts, which is negotiating deals. If one has money, they can always get something, or almost always get something for a lower price. Because the price one sees is just, as far as I'm concerned, it just starts the negotiation. It's not, I never see a price as fixed. Now, so I would say that a person has sufficient resources when they can meet all of their basic needs, as I just enunciated, and at least a reasonable, I'm really nuancing my words here, a reasonable amount of want. Now, our taste can always be larger than any amount of resources we can amass. That's just the reality of it. So I would say all of one's basic needs are met, and at least some of their wants are satisfied. That is, they're able to possibly go on vacation if not every year, every other year, or maybe every 3 years. They can take a nice vacation if that's what they want to do. They can buy a new vehicle if that's what they want to do. Or they can help out a family member if that's what they want to do. Now, those are some wants. So does that respond to your question adequately?
Well, what I would say is that you can have your needs, especially the needs you just addressed, like a stable place to live, food, housing, so forth, without being wealthy. Because there are, like say, you can have someone on Section 8 they can have their housing securely covered by a government program, and they don't necessarily have to have any money or very little
Okay,
money.
let's go back to your original question. Okay, because I think you are expanding your original question, or you may be changing it a little bit. Go back to your original question.
Yeah, the question is how much money do you have to be considered financially secure?
Right. Now, why did you include the example that you did?
Because really, I was coming, I don't want to tie up too much time with your program because you're talking about a lot of this things. But I'm just saying, my theory is, and you may not agree, whatever, but it's pretty much, we all are pretty much in the same boat. And even though some people have a tremendous amount of money, now they're in a different category, a billionaire, so forth and so on. But is a millionaire, if you have $1 million, are you financially secure?
Okay. Let me just respond to that this way. And your questions are I think they're decent questions, but we would have to look at net. We would have to look at one's debt and their credits. In other words, what they actually own versus what they owe to get their net worth. Because if a person earns $1 million and they spend $1 million, they're broke, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So when you say $1 million, we need to take that in context. Like the lady, and I hope she hears about it, and I hope she's mad as a wet hen. I'm just kidding. But I hope Miss Ray hears this because she asked me, what's my credential? And I had to think about that later on. My credential that I would put forward is I have zero debt. Okay? Now, and I would say to her, no disrespect, can you meet that criteria? Most people can't. And so I think that becomes very, very crucial in making the assessment that you are asking. Mm-hmm. What is one's debt to asset ratio? Mm-hmm. Right? Or asset to debt ratio?
Yeah, I understand. And I want to talk about, but look, the bottom line is, to me,
let me just finish this and say this. The example that you gave would not be a good example of the question that you asked for this reason. Because a person who's living in a subsidized setting, by definition, doesn't have adequate resources. That's why they need to be subsidized. Do you agree with that?
Well, according to the government, in order for them to be eligible for the program, no, they don't have adequate resources.
Okay, rather than super nuancing something, okay, let me just say this for clarity's sake. Rather than super nuancing something and micro analyzing it, let's just go with it in a straightforward fashion. A person who needs subsidies is not a person who has adequate resources on their own, by definition.
Mr. Solution?
I'll turn it over.
The phone went down.
Mr. Evadyne, you may jump in if you care to.
Thank you very much. So, how much money does a person have to have in order to be considered wealthy? How much money does a person have to have in order to be considered financially stable? Two different questions in my head. Wealthy is above and beyond your need in my head. financially stable is being able to maintain yourself and your family, to be able to maintain your standard of living without loss. So I agree, the debt to income ratio is very important because you can have somebody who has $1 million in the bank but still has a mortgage of 450,000 or 600,000. So they are still paying not only the mortgage but the interest on top of that. So if one zeroed out the other, yes, they would have changed, but then that depends on whatever else they have outstanding. If they have student loans, if they have other people that they're taking care of, all of that would factor in to their stability, their comfortability, and the decision to become wealthy. And then you have people who have a lot of wealth, they have a lot of money, and I call it liquid funds. I was at an event and it was a lot of retired seniors, which was great. And they have, the majority of them have their Social Security, their pensions, this money, I call it liquid funds, coming in every month. They can sit in the casino on the 3rd because they know on the 1st it's coming again. But they also had a lot of retirement products, a lot of CDs and annuities that they acquired throughout their work life, money that they will never spend. I mean, they would have to literally throw it up and fly in it in order to get rid of it. They'll never touch it. And with them, just like you said, Mr. Solution, I said, why don't you take those products and spread them out to your children and your grandchildren and your great grandchildren, because you're not going to outlive that money. Something's going to happen to it in the end, but I always see that it's more beneficial to spread that wealth while you're breathing rather than hoping someone's going to do it when you pass. So,
And what was their response? What was their response to that?
some of them, they were shaking, they were nodding in agreement. I wasn't sitting down with them like as a financial consultant, but I was speaking to a group, and I could see where, the sparkle in their eye was glittering. I want to say this also, Mr. Solution and Dr. James, Jashon, and Dre. I'm looking at the time. We're going to be finishing this very shortly. I am I am right now recording this on Zoom. If you want to continue the conversation, you could call me and we can continue the conversation. It's a lot of information that we really, really need to get out. And if not, I'm going to continue it anyway, when we finish this call. But there's a lot of information people need to get on a small scale and on a large scale. My tax partners and I, we had decided to already do financial literacy. So, Mr. Solution, when you came up with that idea, first I was shocked, like, where did he get that from? But I had to think about it, and I believe you made the offer on Jashon's show maybe 3 times before I responded. And I had to let the universe direct me. And the universe said people need this information, and together we could make that happen, is why I accepted the challenge. So we are going to do a complete financial literacy and wealth building event, ongoing. I'm going to host it, but I need visual. I need visual with it because we want to show people. Some people need to see. So we'll show the budgets, we'll show how to work it out, we'll show investments and how they work. When I say show, I mean on the screen. So anyone who wants to view it will be able to come on. It won't just be talk and listen. They'll be able to see it and engage with it and even download some of the forms. So that's building up. But I just know that there's a lot of information. I want to absolutely thank the Keeping It Real platform for having this segment, for having this, I call it a mini series, for having this mini series. And I do hope that valuable information has been shared and received in the way that we wanted it to be received, and that it will continue growing in people's lives, that they will continue reaching out and seeking more information. I call myself an appetizer. So hopefully they'll go to the main course and just delve right in and become so full. This is the gluttonous time. Become gluttonous when you're getting this information on finances and building your wealth and securing your future. And I also, when it comes to mortgages, do not believe people should have mortgages if they have liquid funds to pay it off. I believe people should pay off their houses because it takes a half a second for something to happen that keeps you from being able to pay it off. You can become ill, end up in a nursing home, you have a mortgage, but you have liquid money that could have paid that off. I don't believe in mortgages when you have the monies available. And I tell people, don't think that you're spending the money. You're just taking the money from one product to another because the house hopefully will continue building equity. Go ahead.
So you concur with the admonition I gave is that one should exit debt as soon as possible because that will ensure that your resources go to you. See, debt, the person who has debt is always contributing to someone else's financial security. And so the three areas that I major in, and I'm always looking to share in these three areas because I know they are the most important, and that is finances, and not necessarily in this order, finances, health, and relationships. Those are the three areas that I say form a person's middle. I mean, you've seen people exist as paraplegics and quadriplegics, but you've never seen a person missing their middle, right? You got to have that to sustain existence.
Yeah, chakra.
It's the energy factor. It's the energy factory. So, these subjects will never grow old. It's just how we finesse them and how we promote them that will make the difference. But finances actually impacts all of those areas. It is amazing how important one's finances are. And I appreciate your, explaining the psychology, especially with people who are afraid to get started. And I concur with that. I have noticed that myself in discussing this particular issue, that people they prioritize other things that should be subordinate, but they've made that thing a priority. And so it hurts them over a lifetime. So yeah, finances, relationships, and of course, health. Health is obviously a reflection of one's finances. I just bought the other day, I bought a lot of stuff. I'm putting it up now. Actually, I'm organizing it, believe it or not, by date. And so I wanted to talk about, I'll just give you this quick excerpt. I wanted to talk about credit cards. I believe that's very important. MasterCard and Visa are going to raise their rates, and they're going to raise the rates on merchants, which will come at a person like me. Credit card companies consider people like myself deadbeats because we pay off our credit card at the end of the billing cycle. So credit cards, food preparation, getting non-perishable food stuff, and central banks. I wanted to discuss that a little bit, and of course, money itself. So that was my little outline there. Even I wanted to deal with shrinkflation. It kind of pisses me off when I get something that should be 16 ounces and it's 14 ounces, but I'm paying more than I did for the 16 ounces. Who's getting screwed here? But so shrinkflation is real, and it's something we have to deal with. So a lot of this makes me mad, but I transmute it into energy to just go out and be more successful. Go ahead.
Thank you. It's so interesting. I remember you said you should not pay full price for everything or anything. And I have a software protection on my computer And when they charged me, I was like, wait, ho. So I contacted them and they literally took off $120 just to keep me from canceling it out totally. I thought right about you, Mr. Solution. I said, oh, lesson well learned. And I really,
that's one of the major platforms of being a good negotiator is not only knowing the area that one is dealing with, but also be willing to walk away. Like
absolutely.
you said, canceling the subscription, whatever, because at that particular juncture, now usually I don't have to cancel. I'm willing to walk away if I can't get at least some of what I want. And I want a lower price. Yeah. So, yeah.
So thank you.
And see, people, what I find is people will fight. You know, you have your keyboard warriors. They'll fight in this context. But now Robert Kiyosaki talks about this, and I'm just mentioning him only because he's popular. He's pretty well known. He wrote one of the best financial books, best-selling books. But he talked about how the world pushes us around. And see, people who will fight here over, and they don't need to fight, they'll go out in the world, and the world will push them around. They won't balk at that charge. You know, when whomever it is charging them say, well, I'm going to charge you, using the example you gave, that $120. They may not like it, but they go ahead and acquiesce. You know, that's the world pushing you around. That's what the world is, a bully, and its systems are bullies. And so one just has to learn how to leapfrog. I never take no for an answer. No, I don't listen to no. I want yeses.
That's why you come to the table, right? So can you do me a favor? Can you do me a favor? So I will ask you if you can just quickly list some books, some resources that people can go to. I do have here The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham, Unshakable by Tony Robbins, The Truth About Money, Justin Goodbread. And if you could just list some that people can go to, you know, we never know who's listening and what they will touch.
Yeah, well, of course. Thank you for inquiring. Yeah, we have, of course, our friend Dave Ramsey. Now, I don't agree with Dave on everything, and I love to look at positions of disagreement, but and analyze those. But Dave, his baby steps to being a millionaire, and of course, there's the classic Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I recommend reading it. Now, I think that's the best book Robert has ever written, and that's the only book that I have ever bought from Mr. Kiyosaki. Okay, I think he really spent his load on that book. Now, he wrote many other books, but I don't think any of them supersede that one. And of course, there's The Millionaire Next Door. That's a very popular book. And these guys got rich, two economists, and I think they're both now deceased, but they got wealthy just by studying wealthy people. That's all they did. They just studied wealthy people and wrote a book about it. And then they got wealthy. All right, so that's The Millionaire Next Door. There's one, I believe, called The Richest Man in Babylon. Everybody buys Dr. Claude Anderson's book. He has a book called Powernomics. He's a good writer. He makes some very good points, even though it may be directed toward one ethnicity. Everybody knows it has good points. So he has a good book called Powernomics. There is, yes. And this is considered the greatest of all financial self-help books, and that is Think and Grow Rich by Dr. Napoleon Hill. He was the biographer, I believe, of Andrew Carnegie, the great steel guy. And it was very philanthropic of him to want to explain to people how to get wealthy. Now, that book was written back in 1934. if my memory is correct. And the other thing is, if one gets any one of these books, the bibliography will give you recommendations on other books or similar books. So I think I've mentioned about 4 or 5 so far. Is that correct?
That's about 5 or 6, but yes, I appreciate that. And just for a good read, not speaking of race, but racing to it, thank you. We have Success Runs in Our Race by George Frazier. That's an excellent piece of work overall. So it looks like we've run out of time. Did anyone else have any questions or comments?
Well, it's been a good conversation, and I would say, even though this segment is over, I would consider it a success. I don't have to be part of it. I would love to sit in the bleachers and watch it, but if I'm asked to come out and, play a few innings, I will. But I would say other people need to pick up the ball and carry it. What do you think?
I feel that people will do what they're most comfortable with, and that's how we are where we are today. I thank you so much. Thank you for being a co-host with me. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate you welcoming me, Mr. Solution.
Before you go, I'm going to encourage people to do what makes them uncomfortable if it's good. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. That's right. That's right. Step out. You know what I say? We are not supposed to be in a box. I have never seen a pregnant woman with a square shaped belly. So the box isn't meant for us. It's meant for control. Step out of the box, step out of your comfort zone. Do not put yourself in debt, but start thinking about not only your future, but the financial future of your heirs. Generational wealth starts with you. I thank you very much. Thank you again.
Thank you. God bless. And I guess I'll see you on another show. But this mini series concludes today, correct? The 26th of September.
That is correct. And it has been a great summer, fall pleasure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. God bless. And I'll see you on another show. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have participated in the final segment of the mini series, Let's Review Finances, Investment, and Building Wealth with Insurance. I do hope that you found that information useful. I do hope that you move forward in doing additional research, speaking to your friends. I remember years ago, in that same period of time that I purchased the stock split, it was the day before an event I had planned with family and friends that we all come together to share what we knew on finances. And it was the night before that event that I found out that the shares that I had that increased, that would have reaped me, I would say 46,000, because when I saw it, it was $46 a share, even though it had gone up to $59 a share. I don't claim that, but when I saw that they had been sold out of the account that they were being held in, which was not mine, which was my lesson. And so I give that information as well. Have your own account. We can love people as much as we want to love them. They can be beneficiaries on it and us on theirs, but have your own account so you have control over your own investments. Even if you consult with your friends or family, have your own account. Now, this does not mean don't belong to an investment club. That is separate, but don't put all of your eggs into the basket for which you do not have full control over. So bringing together our friends to share information, they say sharing is caring, right? You have no idea what people know until you pose the question. And we all know a little bit about a lot of things. Some people just know how to not say anything and to gather information, which then will benefit them later. There's no one way to this life we're living in, except to be as successful as possible. I talked about taxes a little bit earlier. I talked about taxes a little bit during this segment, but I want to speak further about taxes. And when I'm saying taxes, it's income tax preparation. It is extremely important that you be fair and just when you have a child. When you have a child who may have a non-custodial parent relationship. So that non-custodial parent relationship will allow that child to have life with both parents. Well, in having the life with both parents, when it comes to income tax preparation time, you definitely want to be fair to the non-custodial parent. So when you're filing taxes, and this is for people who aren't married, because when you were married, if you happen to separate, there's a different process. But in this case, the non-custodial parent, male or female, is contributing to the child's life, morally and financially. When you're filing taxes, the custodial parent, if you're going to claim the child, then if it is your only child, you do not have to file head of household and claim the child. You do not have to do that. You can file single, claim the child, and allow the custodial parent, the non-custodial parent, to use the head of household status, as they have a very intricate part in having a place for that child to live and visit as well. And they are financially and morally contributing. You understand? That is how I feel about it. Being fair, not being greedy, not feeling like you want to get all of the refund. Be fair. It makes life easier when you don't have to be angry, feel angry, be deceitful. Again, male and female. Non-custodial parents are not always the fathers, they're non-custodial mothers. But you want to be fair, and you want to give your child a good and loving growth, a good and loving growth. If tax season comes and there's that fight between who gets what and how, the child feels that. The child sees that. And it's not necessary, right? It's not necessary. So please be fair. Gather all of your documents before you go to have your taxes prepared. All of your documents. Think about we're in September. Think about everything you've done. If you've paid student loans, if you paid for any classes to improve your job skills, you can use the lifetime learning credit and get credit for that. If you're an educator and you spend money out of your pocket, of course, they give you a $250 deduction. I know you spend $250 on one visit to the store, but this is what they give you. If you are an educator and outside of the school setting, you're providing tutoring, you're providing after school services, and you're utilizing supplies, then as long as you're getting paid, you can file a Schedule C for your tutoring, your education outside of the school setting, and then you're able to write off some of those supplies, some of your utility bill, some of your rent for the space that you're using to provide those services. And if you're traveling to the student or to a location outside of your workplace to provide a service, then you can track your mileage as well. And this goes for any business for which you are actively engaged and earning income. There can be expenses associated with those. You can go to my YouTube again, youtube.com/Evadyne Smith 3986. It is at the bottom of this flyer. I call it my business page now. Very interesting stories. You can go there and you can, here we go. You can go there and you can see the video on preparing for tax season. It was 2023. That was this year. Preparing for tax season 2023. Now we're going into tax season 2024. And once again, the tax special, it's a $75 flat fee. I'll extend it to October 15th for you who are listening, just in case. Extend it to you, your family, your friends. Yes, it's about generating business, but I do good business. And I take pride in the fact that I educate as well as prepare. And I've been doing this now privately since 2009, not very long, since 2009. And it's rewarding to me. It's rewarding to me to help individuals. And as you see, it's not about money. In comparison to what other preparers are charging for the services that they are rendering. And no disrespect to them, we're all different. But please be kind and be fair. Be naturally kind and fair with no regrets. The one thing I ask you to do is to not let anyone else claim your children who are not taking care of your children and who your children are not living with, because when their social security numbers are listed on other people's tax returns, if you aren't able to claim them yourself, then the government might be providing you with assistance. And if that's the case, when your taxes are filed and you're not claiming them, or when the other person's taxes are filed and they are claiming them, then the government can say, well, we're subsidizing your rent, as they mentioned earlier today. We're subsidizing your rent for that child to live in your home. But we received information with that child's social that that child lived with someone else that year. You may have some questions to answer. Does that make sense? You understand? Don't let other people claim your children. If you are earning income, not through payroll, but doing work on the side, doing your business on the side, whether it's Avon or Tupperware or doing hair or childcare, file your own tax return. As a sole proprietor, as a small business, keep a log of the income that you generate. If you're doing daycare, not only are you going to keep that log so that you can report that income and file your taxes, but you're also going to give a letter to the parent so that they can now get the child tax credit. Nope, the child dependent care credit for the money that they're paying you. So again, those two things are going to add up. Your social is going to say you made $6,000 as an example, and your 2 or 3 or 4 clients, when they file for the child care dependent credit, your social is going to be attached to that. So those things will equal. It's just numbers, and it's matching in the background and the data in the system. So be wise. Also, if you are independent, many people are independent and they don't get W-2s, but they don't want to file their tax returns because they feel like they're going to owe. Well, let me share with you that when you owe and you pay, you're really paying yourself. You're paying yourself because part of what you're paying to the federal government, not the state, but to the federal government, is your self-employment taxes. You're depositing into your Social Security. You're depositing into Medicare. And when the beautiful age comes where you're able to receive your Social Security, then how much you've put in will determine how much you get out for the rest of your life. Not one time, but for the rest of your life. And if you're fairly young and you feel like you don't know if you're going to get to that age, well, you might. I hope you do. But even if you don't, if you're depositing into your Social Security as an independent contractor or a small business, if you should become disabled permanently or temporarily, your monthly check will be determined once again by the amount of money that you've deposited into the account. So, and your dependent children will also get a check. So it's like insurance, really. It's retirement insurance and or retirement disability insurance. You're paying yourself, not the man, yourself. So consider that. And you can go back some years. You can go back some years and file. If you happen to hit lottery and you have extra money, then you want to go back, 10 years and file those taxes and pay that money because you have that extra money from your lottery winning. That's going to set you up. That's going to set you up wisely. It's going to set you up well, again, to have that check coming in every month for the rest of your life. Did I mention that I'm Evadyne? I'm Evadyne Smith, and you are listening to the final segment of Let's Review Finance, Investing, and Building Wealth with Insurance. It was a mini series on the Keeping It Real podcast network with Jashon. And you can reach their line. They have several shows. I think now 7 days a week, they have shows in the evening mostly. And you can reach them on Blog Talk Radio, Keeping It Real with Jashon. No G at the end of Keeping It Real. Or you can call in 563 999 3718. You can call in and listen to this show, join the show. If you want to ask a question, press 1. And that will put you in the host key and they'll call on you as you heard the doorbell ring, right? So we hear the doorbell ring on this end, but you press 1. That's that signal. I appreciate you listening. Again, for your life insurance needs, please give me a call, term life or whole life. And for your specified health insurance needs, give me a call. Specified health is Aflac. That's the one I use. That's the one I sell. And they have cancer, heart attack, stroke, sudden cardiac arrest, end-stage kidney failure, hospitalization, disability, which has to go through your job. If you're a small business, you have at least 3 employees, then we can come in and write the disability. We can come in and write the hospital. But on the outside, you can get the cancer policy and the accident policies as well. Aflac is very affordable, and so it's valuable. And again, life insurance is not about death, it's about building wealth. Please go on to my website, networkingforsuccess.info, and purchase the 2 ebooks for $5. Pick a chapter, read any chapter. The books are excellent. Motivation, inspiration, education, empowering, educational, and a wonderful thank you gift. So I thank you. If this has been helpful and you would like to make a contribution to all of the efforts, you may do it via PayPal through Team Follow Me at yahoo.com. You could go to the website where you can purchase the books and it will lead you to PayPal. So you can purchase the books, you can up your donation, you can up your appreciation by just increasing the number of books, and then you can pay through there. You get a wonderful, wonderful. In the book is a wonderful thank you package. In both of the books are wonderful thank you packages. You could Cash App $ Evadyne S $Evadyne EVADYNES. Yeah, just do what you do while I do what I do. Networking for Success is the name of my business. So again, networkingforsuccess.info/promo or networkingforsuccess.info. Look at everything that's there. Click on the promo for the books, financial strategies. Just take a look around. Welcome to my office. I thank you so very much for being here. Really, it's been a pleasure, and we will meet again. Come to my podcast on Mondays on huddle.team, meeting ID grown folk, or you can call in at 520-525-8633. That is the call-in number. If your carrier charges you, then you can, if your carrier charges you, you can text call me to that number. And when you text call me to that number, you will get a free call back. And I say free based on your data plan. Okay? I thank you very much for everything. Thank you for coming. Come again. It's been an absolute pleasure. I thank Mr.Solution for suggesting that I co-host with him. I think we did a great job on this mini series of Let's Review. Have a great every day.